Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
You know, as much as it might sound weird to say this, give me a week off. I'm ready to go back for Comic-Con.
We came, we saw, we conquered, as they say. Bry Guy Signal could not make it in. He is tending to a matter at hand, so he should be back on next week. But fear not, because it is Costober, and like we promised, we finally got a cosplayer extraordinaire in the studio. But we also have a cosplayer that is also a photographer for cosplay in the studio. You may have saw him at RoberCon if you were here locally in the 607. If you were at New York Comic Con this past weekend, you did see him walking around. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mike Blakeslee.
How we doing, guys?
Hey, thanks for coming on the show, Mike. Appreciate you making the time to join us here. Hashtag it up, ODPHEE, if you want to join the conversation on social media, because, hey, we want to hear from you. The biggest news story of the week had to be New York Comic Con itself.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we were all down there, had a blast down there. Shout out to everybody at Repop and everybody responsible for making it happen, because it truly was a memorable experience.
Yeah, not for just the sheer fact that I don't know firm numbers, but they had to have shattered their attendance record.
Oh, easily. I think they must have had a record-setting crowd. We haven't seen numbers officially yet, but I guarantee you when they come out, it's going to be through the roof. Because, I mean, Mike can tell when you were down there on Saturday how crazy was the Javits.
Saturday was bad.
Yeah.
Just bumping into people left and right. It was...
Well, I know I was talking to a few people today who asked me how it was, and I said it was crazy. I go, but in a good way, I said, because Thursday's usually the day that, like, okay, you know, the Funko booth is a madhouse. You know, if the gaming booths are a madhouse because the demos are there, that's to be expected. You know, it's your one opportunity to try out the game before it comes out for sale. That's to be expected. But by and large, if you're around the Marvel booth or the DC booth, it's a little busy. But by and large, Thursday, you're pretty able to get around easily. Thursday, I felt like I was in the middle of Times Square on like New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was a packed house down there all the days we were there, which is great, because the one thing about going to comic book conventions, whether it's RoberCon, whether it's NYCC, whether it's San Diego, wherever you can go for them, you're just celebrating the fandom with everybody else that's a fan. Mm-hmm. And you see all the great cosplay, which we're going to get into next segment with Mike. But you also get to just see the excitement of just everybody that really gets the whole deal about, you know, your superheroes and just the, you know, whole mystique about them and why you become a fan. Like, you just start talking to people in line and just the conversations just go. I mean, it's just wild to see just how excited other people get just as much as you are talking about the same stuff that you normally talk about with your friends back home, wherever you live. It's just a wild experience.
Yeah.
So going into that, Wednesday was like the unofficial kickoff of Comic-Con. DC had a panel for Titans.
Yep.
Now, have we all seen the trailer for Titans?
I've seen the trailers, yeah.
Everything I've been hearing about this has said Titans is surprisingly good, because I know once everybody saw the trailer and the whole F Batman line, it was like,
probably
really?
With having seen people's reactions to it and people's first thoughts to it after NYCC, he thinks that wasn't the best option to go with for a trailer. I know they're going for shock value, but if you're trying to sell people on a TV show, having, you know, an iconic sidekick say F Batman, probably not the best choice.
No, it definitely wasn't, but the second trailer they did release looked awesome.
Yeah.
And going into the panel, there's a lot of excitement for it, and just the buzz hearing about it is the early reviews are coming out that Titans is actually really good.
So yeah, the couple I've seen says it's kind of like an R-rated DC Arrowverse show, but it you know, they kind of want to wait and see it grow first before they go, yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah, and that's rightfully so. It's just a very interesting take, because if you're familiar with the Teen Titans, obviously you've seen the cartoon, and this is definitely not the cartoon.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination. And it's kind of an interesting approach going to it for the first series out of the DC universe. So that being said, there was also some other news getting announced at the DC panel. Mike, I know you're a Harley Quinn fan.
A bit.
Just a little bit. He's trying to be humble. He's trying to be humble about it. Kaylee Cuoco from The Big Bang Theory is going to be voicing Harley Quinn in the new animated series coming for the DC universe.
See, that's weird for me, because Yeah, I know her from Big Bang Theory, but like Tara Strong is so in my head as Harley Quinn. Like I watched the trailer twice, and I didn't picture Harley Quinn. I pictured Penny from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Did you guys see the trailer for, like, they had like a little bit of a clip from that where it showed Kelly's voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To me, it was strange.
Yeah.
It really, I don't know. I think they can make it work, but
Yeah.
it just seemed off, especially after seeing, was it Batman and Harley Quinn? They had that movie come out like a year ago.
Something like that, yeah.
That was one of the other girls from Big Bang Theory. She did.
Oh, really?
Well.
Melissa Rauch, I think. But going in with that, I actually am very optimistic about this.
Yeah, the trailer clip or whatever it is they put out was interesting because it was Harley Quinn in jail with Poison Ivy, basically trying to sell people on the show. And I think at one point, I almost wonder if this isn't going to be like a recurring thing for not only DC but Marvel going forward once the Disney Fox deal goes through. They referenced Deadpool.
Really?
Yeah, they referenced Deadpool at one point. You know, it's funny, it's tongue-in-cheek, but I'm almost afraid it's going to be like, all right, to get it out of the way.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about it is Deadpool and Harley Quinn are almost identical in certain aspects of their characters. They always break the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And they're really kind of interacting with, you, the watcher. And just kind of seeing how that's going to play out, especially with DC Universe being a streaming service, I think they get to get away with a lot more than they normally would.
Right.
And then going into the other show, which I am telling everybody right now, the sleeper show of the DC Universe is going to be Doom Patrol.
Okay.
Without question.
Okay.
Now, Mike, are you familiar with Doom Patrol at all?
No.
Okay. Doom Patrol is almost like a more quirky version of the X-Men for the DCU.
Okay.
It's definitely an acquired taste, I will say.
Sure.
But it's worthwhile just for the sheer fact of it's something very different. And the fact they're doing a live action Doom Patrol definitely has my attention. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice to go with because, I mean, when you run down, I'll say top 10, top 15 list of like DC staples, whatever you want to call it, they're not exactly high on the list.
No, Doom Patrol just has a very quirky history.
Sure.
And like I said, they're very eclectic. And like I say, they're more, I guess I would say different than they're the equivalent of the X-Men, just more quirky and more different, like for the DC Universe. But the casting they've done, Brendan Fraser as Robot Man, and they showed photos from the panel, and it looks awesome. Like, so sold on it, too. And they also announced that Matt Bomer is going to be playing Negative Man.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm excited to see. I mean, like I said, their casting for this has just been awesome.
I'll say it's interesting that they're going with, like, big-name actors like a Brendan Fraser, like a Matt Bomer, that are like, okay, you may not know the names per se with Matt Bomer, but like the face when you see it. So it's not like random obscure person that like when you look them up on IMDb, it's like one episode in this, another episode in that.
Yeah, it's just really crazy about how they're doing it. And I tell you what, I think it's going to be one of those cool things that as we're seeing the show progress, I think it's going to be the sleeper hit from the bunch that we've heard so far. So going in with that, they had a strong panel coming out of the gate. I thought DC had a great weekend overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with it when you look at, the positive, reviews or thoughts or whatever you want to say coming out of the Titans panel and everything they showed. It's hard to argue.
No, but going into the overall presentation, especially, I would say, Mike, I know you're an Aquaman fan.
We did meet him.
Yeah, that's right. Between Bry Guy Signal and Mike and his wife, they all met Jason Momoa this weekend.
Who I hear is what you see on screen is what you get in real life.
He's ridiculous.
He's awesome.
Huge. That's what I've heard.
He, now I'm sure Brian told you guys just how the whole charade works, where they take you through and you're just kind of getting like prodded through like cattle. To meet this guy, and you stand there with him for maybe like 3-4 seconds and you're out of the room.
Yeah.
Well, it's the one thing about when you go to Comic-Cons is just there's such a line for people ready to meet celebrities or writers or artists or whoever you're going to meet down there. There's always a line. It's just trying to get as many people through so everybody has that experience for it.
And it's crazy. And the thing is, it's like, with him meeting that many people, you'd think he would get sick of seeing everybody come through.
Right.
And we were in one of the later groups.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed like he was in a good mood. He's just up front, first second meeting him, he seems like he's probably just that guy.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you look at the video that got posted online of when Mark Ruffalo again went around con undercover, which I gotta preface, I didn't see it this time.
I did.
I
didn't say anything.
Oh, okay, you saw him. Yeah, so Ruffalo went around, incognito, but then went to get his photo taken with Jason Momoa, and Jason Momoa was in on it, and he's like, "Yeah, take it out," and he's just wilding out. It's the funniest thing.
But that's the cool thing about it. When you're there and you're so appreciative towards the fans that you meet. And like I said, I've heard nothing but great things from everybody who said they met Jason Momoa. They speak so highly of him. Joe Manganiello was there too at his booth on Saturday doing T-shirts. I mean, but every fan that met their, whoever they met just had the nicest things to say. I know me personally, I got my Batman stuff autographed by Tom King, who was awesome. Yeah. And Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo yet again, who were just as gracious and just as cool as ever. I mean, for me, that was my great experience. And just when you see somebody and you're like, I just really appreciate the work and just the reaction that they get. I mean, they're just as much as fans as we are. So just to kind of see that interaction, I mean, that just kicked off con and just put it right in the, just a great feeling going forward. And then as we're going through, there's a lot of stuff. The Aquaman trailer, speaking of Aquaman, came out, or a longer version.
Yeah.
Mike, what was your thoughts on that?
It was a good 5 minutes. I'm actually excited about this movie.
I like the direction they're taking with it because it's not your typical semi-origin story. Yes, they're telling the origin, but they're also telling a story of a man who, I can lift a submarine out of the water. I can summon the denizens of the ocean to my aid. I don't want this. And it's all, and they're also playing up the comedy. I mean, there's the one scene in the trailer where they're in some ruins in the Sahara Desert or something, and Mara tries to get the lock device or whatever it is to open, and it won't open, and Momoa just goes, "Well, of course this thing doesn't work. It's been collecting dust since before the Sahara was a desert," and Mara just goes, "Of course you do your best thinking when you're not thinking." Yeah,
I mean, this movie is is such a nice turn away from what the current direction of the worlds of DC or DCEU has been. Mm-hmm. It's not dark. It's not so gritty. It just looks like a fun action film. And I think for Aquaman, because especially he's always been kind of the butt of everybody's jokes.
Family Guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's prime example. And to see him come out as the badass warrior that he's been written over the past couple of years, like Jeff Johns when he did his take on him, it's awesome to see this finally come to light.
And I think you saw a bit of that come from Jason Momoa on Instagram. He posted a photo, a screenshot or still image of him in the Aquaman costume.
Yeah, and what was it? Who's going to make fun of him now?
Yeah.
And I think that they're having a good time with this because I think the reaction from everybody that I've talked to about the trailer and everybody that's hit us up online has said too is the trailer looks awesome. I'm actually excited for this film.
I'll say I've read a couple articles about screenings of the movie because obviously they do test screenings and whatnot, but from everything I've read, the movie sounds amazing.
Yeah, and honestly, I think for the DC cinematic universe, they need to nail this one because I think if this one doesn't do well for whatever reason, I think this could be so detrimental to them moving forward because obviously there's a lot of shakeup going on with the Justice League franchise, obviously with Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck being out of the roles or rumored to be or whatever the case is going to be there. This has to hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's going to, barring anything really crazy happening for the rest of the film. But if the trailer's any indication, it's going to knock it out of the park. And, I mean, some other comic news going on. I mean, there was some news breaking about Doomsday Clock. They were showing the variant covers and the covers for issues 9 and 10, which looked awesome.
Yep.
I mean, that's slowly going to start winding up next year, too. And the 3 Jokers under the black label looks awesome. And, I mean, granted, just seeing the promo art, because they're going to finally do the Joker's origin story or something like it.
For now.
Yeah, which I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I'm sold on it. Because I know, Mike, you haven't been reading Batman lately, but they've been talking about how the Jokers, there are 3 Jokers.
I saw some sort of theory about that, but...
Yeah, they're going to fully break it down under their... I would say their black label to try describing it as their mature readers line. But it's going to be involving superheroes. That's probably the easiest way to say it.
Sure.
And I'm just very interested to see where they're going to go with this.
So you even had some interesting Star Wars comic news that I saw when I was at the Star Wars books panel. There's been this image floating around for a couple of weeks of... the only way I can compare it is you see the fan-made posters where it's the entire saga and all the characters and all this. But it said Age of Republic, Age of Rebellion, Age of Resistance. And we knew it was for some comic thing they were doing, and nobody knew what. Well, they detailed it. Age of Republic, it's going to be a bunch of one-offs written by Jody Hauser, and they even revealed the characters for these. Age of Republic is going to feature one-offs for Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Padme Amidala, Darth Maul, Jango Fett, Count Dooku, and General Grievous. So that's interesting, and they didn't really get into details about like when specifically in the timeline these are going to get involved, so that'll be interesting to see. Age of Rebellion is going to be written by Greg Pak. It'll feature Princess Leia Organa, Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, Luke Skywalker, Grand Moff Tarkin, Boba Fett, Jabba the Hutt, and Darth Vader. Now, the only one, because Greg Pak was there, the only one he went into detail about was the Princess Leia comic, and he basically said that the Princess Leia comic is going to be how she gets the Boushh bounty hunter costume right before Return of the Jedi, and how she kind of gets that whole thing, because it's not she just walked into a costume store someplace and bought it. No, she got it somehow. And then the Age of Resistance is going to be written by Tom Taylor. Tom unfortunately wasn't there to talk. He was out of the country someplace. That will feature one-offs about Finn, Poe Dameron, Rose Tico, Rey, Captain Phasma, General Hux, Supreme Leader Snoke, and Kylo Ren.
Mike, you a big Star Wars fan?
Like to watch it.
Yeah, I tell you, this. I'm very excited to hear what they're doing for Episode 9. Just, I know the anticipation is becoming, but I know Pad, being obviously the Star Wars aficionado of our group here, definitely is excited about the news coming out for that. There's so many other panels going on, too. I mean, just to kind of give bullet points. Voltron announced their final season's coming up December 14th on Netflix. If you have not seen that, I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Did they say how many episodes?
I'm reading 13 for the final season. Okay. So this is going to be the end of it. It's kind of bittersweet because if you've been watching the show, it's actually been a very great retelling, reset of it. And it's something that you can jump into if you've watched the old cartoons way back when.
Never seen it.
Oh, Voltron is so classic, dude.
See, I remember bits and pieces of the old cartoon because they re-showed it on Cartoon Network in like the mid to late 90s. I don't remember much of it. I just remember watching it.
Yeah, there's so much you can get into, and it's almost like the predecessor. Like when you watch and you think about the time frame it was done, you can see how it's been influencing other shows going forward. Just kind of like the team books, 5 lions forming as one. Sounds like something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So going into that, I mean, there was a lot of other cool panels going on. Marvel's Runaways had a great panel too. The Netflix and Chills, I heard good things about too.
Yeah.
Umbrella Academy is coming out. If you have not read that, go pick that up at your local comic shop. And Happy is coming back for season 2 on Sci-Fi Network.
Yep.
Have you seen Happy?
No.
Happy is amazing. Happy is not for kids though, by any stretch of the imagination.
I've seen bits and pieces. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's something. It's so like if you just have a really twisted sense of humor, you'll definitely get into that.
This is one that like you're sitting there watching it, but you also have your finger on like the previous channel button just on the off chance somebody who really shouldn't be watching the show wanders into the room.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and follow up about our NYCC coverage. You are listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is George Gatton, and you are listening to the Ocho Duro Harley Hour Entertainment Edition.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, talking NYCC.
Oh, boy.
The event that it was. And like we said, Thursday and Friday were rocking days, but Saturday, man, that had a lot going on.
You almost needed to like clone yourself into 3 different people just so you could see everything.
Yeah, because right from the gate, Saturday was just a rocking day. We wound up actually going to the Hellboy panel.
For the new movie, the reboot.
Yeah, for the reboot. Mike, are you a fan of the Hellboy?
I've never seen it.
Oh, my God, you don't know what you're missing. It's basically just a cool interpretation of like a monster film mixed in with like different action and I almost want to say
it almost feels sort of like the Abbott and Costello horror movies, but like modernized, but with maybe like a George Romero twist on it.
Yeah, there's so much going on with it, and I know this is the remake from the previous 2 films. David Harbour, he just owned that panel.
He was in his element in the biggest way.
Yeah, it's like when you have the star of the movie And he came in and he just owned the room. He just came in, got the energy going, was making jokes, was getting everybody just excited for the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it says, too bad Bry Guy couldn't make it in here because he was probably the most amped up of it, like the five of us that went.
I'm pretty sure he was jumping out of his seat, but like as the panel was like they put the logo of the movie up on the screen and they're doing the introduction to the moderator and like he's like Hellboy.
Yeah, he was all wound up. Him and John and Breon too were all like, okay, this is our panel. And they showed the new footage, or at least some of it.
They showed a sizzle reel.
Yeah, and it looks great.
This was the first footage they've shown everywhere. Yeah, no, I'd seen the first Hellboy movie done by Guillermo del Toro. I didn't see the second one. Just never got around to it. But the thing they kept harping on and emphasizing is this is a reboot, and they were saying that without trying to completely trash the old movies. They're like, listen, the old movies are what they are. We, the studio wanted to take it in a new direction. And this movie is a hard R. Like, when the trailer finally comes out, because what they showed at New York Comic Con will not hit the web officially, but this is going to be a hard R-rated Hellboy movie, and it looks incredible.
Yeah, this is going to be one that if you weren't a fan of the first one, you're going to be like, okay, I definitely want to go see this. And if you were a fan of the comics and you are a fan of the previous films, you're going to like this one too. It has a different look to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something that I'm like, okay, they got the gist of the character. They have enough that it's like, okay, I'm on board.
Right. The sizzle reel they showed opened right up at the start where, something's going on. He's in the back of like a police, like the kind of vehicle you see a SWAT team come pouring out of. And he comes out of there and he's like taking his time, being all badass. And somebody shoots at the door and he kind of, whoa, hey, I'm on your side. And some officer in SWAT gear just goes, right, sorry.
Yeah, it's just that really set off the whole sizzle reel, and it just went from there. The action was awesome, and and you could definitely tell like the cast was so just feeding off the energy of the crowd.
Yeah,
I mean that's something like Mike. You've gone to many panels at New York Comic Con for the past couple of years. Is it always better when the people on stage are just giving that energy and the fans are just feeding them?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want to go into
really builds the hype up. It's great.
Yeah, it's almost like an indescribable, feeling, but it's like you get in there and like they're giving you so much energy, and just when you give it back to them, it's like that's getting them more amped up.
Right. I mean, you saw it from the outset. Like you said, David Harbour came in and he goes, New York, what's up? And the crowd goes nuts because it's David Harbour of Stranger Things. And he goes, that's right, you won't get that at San Diego.
Yeah, he immediately goes, I love this con better. He's like, forget San Diego. And he's kidding, folks. But that comment just got everybody wound up, and it just went from there, and he just really just kind of was opening up and just, describing he's from the East Coast, and, he's so happy to be, showing this in New York, and just really got everybody wound up. And the minute they showed the sizzle reel, it was like the whole place was erupting because it looked that good.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you follow him on Twitter, and I hope you do, he has a Twitter challenge.
Yeah.
That just go to his Twitter, find it, and do a retweet.
Or just sit on Twitter long enough. It'll show up on your feed. It needs 666,000 retweets. You'll find it.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And also going on across town, because as we were talking about with these panels, they're not just at the Javits. They were at the Hammerstein Ballroom. They were at Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel had a big presence going on, too. And they unveiled some footage from their newest Spider-Man animated film, Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, they showed 35 minutes of the new film.
Now, to preface this, we know for a fact they showed 35 minutes because people on Twitter who work for Marvel said they showed 35 minutes. The thing we don't know is how long this movie is, so that's kind of the determining factor of, okay, how much of this movie did they show?
Yeah, that's the one thing. And let me ask you this, Mike. If you're a fan of the movie...
Or even the character.
35 minutes, do you think that was too much or too little to show?
To me, that's too much. I don't want to see a third of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I agree. I fully agree with you, too. And I don't know if it was because a lot of the online reaction to Venom was so negative that maybe this might have been an idea. This is just strictly my guess. I'm not saying I know anything about this. But it just kind of seemed like really surprising they would show that much of the trailer, of the movie.
Well, I mean, you could look at it kind of two ways. The positive way to spin it is, okay, we've been test screening this movie. The reactions have been great. Everybody loves it. We've got complete faith in this movie. We have no issue showing it. The negative side of it is, okay, we just put out our own Venom movie that was supposed to kickstart our own, whatever universe, villain universe, whatever it is, and it's not getting good reviews. So the box office is going to be what the box office is. We really need to like convince people, hey, listen, we know Venom wasn't the biggest hit in the world. Trust us, this is going to be good. I mean, the other way I can kind of look at it is when we went to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel last year and they gave us, what was it, 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
No, not 30 minutes. It was like 15, I would say.
No, it was
15 or 20. It wasn't a half hour.
Right, so it was 20 of a 2-hour premiere, so once you take out commercials, about an hour and 40 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, yeah, it might be a little too much. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to take it, but I just thought it was kind of like really surprising. I mean, great if you were there. We weren't, obviously. We were at the Hellboy. Yep. But it was just kind of going, that seems like a lot. But everything I've heard about the animated film, though, has been good.
Right, and the directors have both said that because I forget their names, but it's the duo who did the Lego movie. And it's the same two who did the 21 and 22 Jump Street. They've said that, like, okay, should the movie do well and they want to do more sequels, they've got stuff planned because, well, the Spider-Verse is a large place.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, getting the 35 minutes is great, and especially the movie backed it up. So, I mean, you can't be really that mad. It was just kind of like a really interesting take on it, I guess, because I wouldn't expect... I don't, when I think animated films, I don't think about 3-hour epics.
No.
Is usually about an hour and a half to 2. So it's
hour and a half, hour 45, yeah.
Yeah, kind of surprising to see. But speaking of Marvel, our own Mike was at the Daredevil panel.
You lucky son of a gun.
Mike, break it down to us. How was that like?
So we got to see quite a bit of footage.
Okay.
They probably played, I'm going to say probably like 6 different clips.
Ooh.
What's the name of the guy that plays Wilson Fisk?
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, so he's kind of the guy when it comes to the panels.
Right.
He gets the crowd just absolutely roaring. He doesn't even have to hardly say anything.
Yeah, and it's what's awesome about him, and I think this is the general consensus on the internet, and I'm pretty sure it's the general consensus in the room. There's perfect casting, and then there's perfect casting.
Yeah. D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk, you can't get better.
He's absolutely amazing in that part. And so, obviously in this season, he's back. He's a big part of it. They're bringing in a new character.
Yeah,
everybody's kind of hyped about.
Right.
I don't know if we want to talk about that yet.
Yes, we can, absolutely. Wilson Bethel is playing Benjamin Dex Poindexter. Now, that name might not jump at you, but Mike, why don't you tell our listening audience who that is?
They're bringing Bullseye.
Yes, Bullseye,
boy.
The legendary Daredevil, Punisher, I don't know, Wolverine possibly, because Bullseye has definitely made his presence known throughout the MCU, comic-wise. And just to see where they're going to go with him, he's finally introduced. I mean, you could argue he is in the top 2 of Daredevil villains of all time.
Yeah.
And I will say, because honestly, he's just right behind the Kingpin.
Yeah, it's a 1-1A scenario.
Yeah, and you can't get much better than Bullseye for season 3. And I mean, how was the reaction from the crowd when that got announced?
Everybody went absolutely ballistic, and to kind of like tail off of that with him being in it. Now you guys, you liked the hallway fight scene in season 1,
yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
they said they're topping it.
No.
There's no.
Oh my lord!
They said they're topping it.
That was like that clip. For those who haven't seen it, go find it. It's the type of scene and shooting that, like, if you're in a film class or like you're studying to become a filmmaker, your professor's going to show you that clip because, okay, this is just perfect filmmaking.
That is just so crazy. Yeah, it's just one take, one hallway, and just to see what happens. I mean, it's just mind blowing because you watch it and like for me, I believe it's episode 2 this happens.
Yeah,
I just remember watching like, okay.
I remember watching it, hitting rewind, watching it again, and I'm pausing it, going, "Did I just see that?"
It's too good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
To kind of bring it back on this new season, they actually said they convinced Netflix and Marvel to let them take a day off of filming to rehearse this an entire day.
Wow!
Holy shoot!
Wow,
that's insane. All right, not that I wasn't excited for the release coming up, but
October 19th,
done deal.
Yeah.
Done deal. I need to.
Wow.
I need to see this.
That's the kind of stuff you see in filmmaking for like mega fight scenes.
Yeah, I mean that's just. if they got to top it, I mean, Daredevil is their franchise of the Netflix MCU.
Yeah.
So obviously they want to come back strong, and if they're doing Born Again, which like we talked about previous episodes, this is the definitive Daredevil story.
Yeah, you don't want to have to attempt this a second time. You want to get it right the first time.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, if they somehow screwed up Born Again, trust me, any Daredevil fan will go ballistic on social media.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, the casting's been spot on. Everything we've seen thus far just looks like they're going to nail it. I'm super excited about it, and I'm just trying to visualize how they're going to top the hallway scene. I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think is a stairwell and just going up and down like about 5 flights.
Circular.
Yeah, I'm just something crazy like that has got to happen. But I mean, like Mike was saying though, the Daredevil panel, just how crazy was that? Just
it was berserk, and I really wish that we could have stayed for the entire thing, but Jason Momoa, he was waiting.
Aquaman calls you.
Had to go see him.
Aquaman calls, you answer.
The King of Atlantis calls, you have to leave. I mean, Pat, you even got a good story about meeting a celebrity down at con.
Oh, yeah, I got to meet David Tennant, of course, 10th Doctor, Kilgrave, Barty Crouch Jr., I could go on. It was incredible. It was one of those things that, like, we were lining up in the photo ops room, and there was a guy kind of, like, keeping up beat and telling everyone what to do. He's like, I'm surprised nobody's passing out yet. And I'm like, well, that's probably because we're all, like, pinching ourselves. Is this really happening yet? But no, he's definitely a cool guy, very welcoming and pleasing to everyone. And you can tell he's a seasoned veteran of this thing because they were just cranking people out of there as fast as they could. And the only movement he would really do is to kind of adjust his feet so his legs wouldn't get tired.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? It's David Tennant.
It's a top shelf guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, we're meeting celebrities. You're getting all the information at con. I mean, this is just one of the great aspects of con. And then going into the night panels, too. The Walking Dead came back, showed their season premiere.
Yep.
And we won't give any spoilers away just yet. We might talk about it a little later in the show, but I know Mike has not seen it as of recording time, so we're not going to spoil anything for him. But it was a good start to come back.
Yeah.
We will definitely say that.
Yeah.
And just going into it, I mean, obviously, overall, though, Saturday was a strong day for New York Comic Con. And then going into Sunday, Doctor Who came back.
Yeah.
And probably was the highlight because they were doing the worldwide simulcast.
Yep.
1:45 all around the world. They were showing the new episode with Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. Very good episode if you have not seen it. Yeah,
it was definitely a good episode, and you could definitely tell it had a different feel to it. Obviously, Stephen Moffat is no longer executive producing the show. So there was definitely a different set of hands on it. I mean, it was an interesting episode because the entire time she kept saying, she being Jodie Whittaker, I'm not myself yet. I'm still getting organized. I'm still getting, figuring things out. And I like that.
Yeah, it was something cool. I mean, when she gave the line, I know who I am, I'm the Doctor. That's when it's like, okay.
Well, and I like how they played the fun with the Doctor's name because, of course, the Doctor's name never been said in all the years of the show. And she meets up with some new faces. And they're like, well, what's your name? She's like, I know my name. It's on the tip of my, what's this? She couldn't say tongue. She's like, I know it, but I can't say it.
It's just one of the cool things about Doctor Who, and they really kept the essence of the character. And like I said, Jodie Whittaker is going to completely kick ass this season. No question about that. But final thoughts before we close out the segment on NYCC overall.
It was an enjoyable experience. Tiring. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can see everything.
I mean, I finally got to see the Twisted Tunes panel, which was outrageously funny and hilariously funny. Keep a lookout for the video when it hits their YouTube channel, Twisted Tunes. That's with a Z on the end of tunes.
What script did they do this year?
Clue. And if you watch the video, I won't spoil it for you. There was a special guest appearance in the middle of the show, but we didn't get to see the end of it because about 10 minutes or so before the show was about to end, the staff in the back of the main stage starts yelling for people to get out, get out, get out. There was some electrical fire, something caught fire, and this is all the while the cast is still going, and people are like yelling, stop, 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 and finally they see people leaving. They're like, wait, what? Really? Oh, that sucks. And then one of the female voices, I didn't look back to see who it was basically doing like, in like a department store or like an airplane or something like this, courteous automated voice. Please exit to the rear of the room in a quiet and orderly fashion.
Yeah, that was just, I would say that had to be one of the downers of the weekend if there was one.
But if it was a small downer, though, because there was 10 or 13 minutes left, and realistically, like, as long as they were going on some of these scenes, it was 1 or 2 scenes left.
Yeah, it wasn't that much to ruin the panel by any means.
No, and all I'm going to say, perverted Elmo.
Yeah. I mean, that panel was out of control. It was hysterical. It was a great one.
We saw them last year. They did Ghostbusters. It was hilarious.
Yeah, this was absolutely hysterical. Dream come true.
Yeah, this did definitely not let down. And I guess I'll close it with Scott Snyder made a tweet about con, and I definitely want to read this. So to quote, "If social media gets you down about comics, go to a con like NYCC. Fans from all walks of life, young, old, and pros from all over the world celebrating comics together. Marvel folks, DC folks, indie, all fans, it's all love," end quote. I can't put it any better. If you get the chance to go, you need to go to a comic convention, let alone if you can get to NYCC. It is one of the best cons to go to because you're going to see just fans celebrating fandom in the biggest way possible. There's autographs, there's celebrities, there's panels, and there is cosplay, which we're going to get into next segment. But it's definitely something to check out. Shout out and thank yous again to everybody involved at New York Comic Con. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Seattle, a local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the third segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. And like we said, talking last segments about New York Comic Con, one of the biggest aspects of Comic Con is cosplay. And it is Costober. So we brought in our good friend Mike Blakeslee, who does photography for cosplay, onto the show. So Mike, let's break it down. What does cosplay mean to you? Define it for us.
I mean, by definition, cosplay, costume play, you're dressing up as any character that you can either relate to or you just, as simple as you like the way they look. A lot of people, they take it a step further, and not only do they try to look like them, they want to act like them. They become the character. It's fun.
And there's nothing wrong with that, too. I mean, that's just, you see how it's kind of evolved. And like for you, like, how did you get started in the cosplay?
Started with Halloween when I was little.
Yes.
That is true.
Different, I always liked dressing up as either, my heroes or, I mean, one year I dressed up as The Rock.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a good one.
It was The Rock.
Nothing wrong with that.
Power Rangers. Then as I got older, I'd say probably the first time I would call it like real cosplay, not like a Halloween costume. It was dressed up as Link.
Okay, from Zelda.
Legend of Zelda, right. Now, that was really the first one that I made completely by myself with no help from other people.
And like, how was the process of that? Just like, I mean, how old were you when you did that?
That one, honestly, I was probably like 20.
Okay.
So,
and just going into it, you're like, okay, you know what? I've done dressing up for Halloween. I kind of want to do it, just for a fun thing to do. So, like, the process of doing it, you just go, okay, this is how I'm going to make my costume.
Well, I mean, was there ever a point where you were in the process of making the costume and you kind of took a step back and go, what in the world have I gotten myself into?
yeah, that usually happens pretty quick.
Fair enough. But going into it, you're just like, okay, I'm stitching my costume from hand, or you're just kind of like seeing what you can get at, like, clothing stores.
Yeah, I mean, it starts out with, either patterning or you're looking for the right fabric, which can be frustrating. With my Link cosplay, it was practically impossible to find the right type of fabric, and I made something work. It wasn't the greatest. At some point, I will probably remake it, but you take it step by step. Whether it's fabric first or the patterns, you really got to break it down into as much detail as you can.
Mm-hmm. And then going from there, I mean, were you doing this for a con? Were you doing this for just, to go to a party?
It was kind of going to be like a long-term project where it started out for Halloween to go to a party.
Okay.
And I figured I would always kind of keep building on it.
Okay. And then going from there, I mean, what was the reaction when you walked in? Like, let's take it out of the aspect of it was Halloween and a costume party. Like, when was the first time you wore it to, like, a non-Halloween event?
That one, I think I only ever wore it to Halloween events.
Okay. Fair enough.
But even at that, you kind of get nervous. You're walking in wearing white tights.
Yeah.
In a short tunic that's just past your groin. It's like, you get nervous. It's stepping out of your comfort zone, but shockingly, from the person that I would have least expected to get a compliment from, they went nuts. They loved it.
They immediately knew who the character was from Legend of Zelda and was like, oh my God, you're Link.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, how's that got to be feeling too? Because you put all that time and effort into your costume and to get that reaction.
Well, that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah, just like seeing just the sheer like enjoyment that somebody's like, holy cow, look at this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And just going from there, were you hooked on cosplay?
It made me more interested in it.
All right. And then just going forward with it, you said you were about 20 when you did this. Were you say how many more costumes were you started going like, okay, I'm thinking, okay, can I top this one? Do I want to go into a different direction? Do I want to keep just being Link?
Honestly, it actually kind of turned into doing stuff for a lot of other people.
Okay.
For a while. And it wasn't until probably last year that I really dug in deep and started doing stuff for myself because we were going to New York.
Okay.
Comic-Con.
So just in the meantime, since the first time you cosplayed to now, you've been working on costumes for other people.
Yep.
Can you describe any of the costumes that you did?
I'd say probably recently I did a Wonder Woman from scratch. I did that for my wife.
Wow.
That was last year, and this was the Gal Gadot version.
Okay.
Which was incredibly difficult.
What was the time frame on it? Like, how long did it take for you to make that costume?
That one, I probably spent a good month and a half, nights and weekends working on it. Actually, this was 2 years ago now.
Okay.
Come to think of it. Then last year, as you guys know, I dressed up as Nightwing.
Yep. Down at New York Comic Con.
Outside of the jeans that I bought, and I'd say the only other thing that I bought was the mask. Everything else I made, and it was pretty ambitious. It wasn't just, all right, I'm going to make some foam armor. No, I got to be a complete idiot and say, let's put a piece of plexiglass on the front, paint it, and light it up from the back. Never worked with that sort of stuff before.
No, but
I made it happen.
But that's the thing.
It was fun.
Yeah, you're just really celebrating your fandom. I mean, being a Nightwing fan, that you really want to go, okay, I want to make my costume stand out. And I really want to look the part. And just to go in with it, it just kind of seems like the evolution is, I mean, you started, like you said, being Link from Legends of Zelda and doing, just a kind of a homemade one with tights and such. And now you're going, okay, I need to get foam armor. I need to get a plexiglass shield.
Well, and that's the thing you see a lot of times in cosplaying, like even from, the people who do it professionally and all the time and this is their life, like, you see a lot of the times where they post something online and they're like, okay, I have no idea how this is going to work. This is never going to work. This is never going to, it's never going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And then they get done and they're like, oh my God, this looks amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just, it goes a part of it. It's just like when you start getting involved in it, just from talking with other cosplayers, it just seems like you find stuff to just keep adding to, or it's just like, okay, this is where I set, but I think I can do this.
Yep.
And just really keep just, evolving, your original concept until you finally get the final product. And then going in with that, it was, you went as Nightwing down to Comic-Con, and was this when you and your wife went as Supergirl? And,
yeah, she went as Supergirl.
Because you made a Supergirl costume for her.
Actually, we bought all that, pieced it together. It was probably like 4 different purchases pushed together to make it the CW Supergirl.
Cool.
And that's awesome. I mean, it was an awesome pick. And just to go in with it, so when you get down to New York Comic Con last year, what was the reaction as you're walking around and you're just seeing like everybody in their different costumes?
A little overwhelming at first, and you're real anxious because it was our first con, and as time went on, it got easier. And what was great to me was, like, my wife, she was very, very anxious about it. Cosplay really isn't her thing. She went on a limb and did it. By the end of that day, she was eating it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
Said, well, I mean, you get little kids that are coming up to her, Supergirl, I love you, and you can't help but to eat that up.
Yeah, just to see the reaction, especially from the younger crowd, there is just you are looking like their favorite superhero, or and in some cases super villains.
Yeah,
and just to get that reaction, just all the hard work that you put into your craft is now paying off because you're getting that reaction. It's almost like you are that superhero.
So you bring up kids' reactions. I remember walking around New York Comic Con this year, and there was a gentleman walking around in a very good Thanos costume, and there was a little boy, 7, 8 years old, or however old it was. And he walks past him, and he just looks at Thanos and goes, "How could you?" And he just starts accosting the guy like he's the one who brought out the event of Infinity War.
But how great of a feeling is that for that cosplayer that it's like you get that reaction like you are that character, and just to go through it, because like I said, when we've talked to previous cosplayers, to get the mannerisms down and get the poses down and just to really look like a superhero. I mean, how great is that?
I mean, that's, I think, why we do it is, I mean, yeah, you want to feel good about it. It's all about having fun, and that is really kind of like the last piece of it. You get that reaction. It's like, okay, this is why we do it.
And especially for you, because over the past couple of years, you've really kind of evolved that from being just a cosplayer to a cosplay photographer.
Yep.
Now describe, like, what made you want to start doing cosplay photos?
Well, I've always been into photography, and a lot of people, they like to do landscapes or portraits. Portraits, they can be fun, but I'm not making a living off of it. So if I'm shooting something, I don't want it to feel like a job. I want to do something that's fun. What's more fun than shooting people that want to be superheroes or somebody like Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
Darth Vader, people like that, Cinderella. You can do some really cool things with fantasy. Really, it's more than photography, it's art.
Yeah.
And as you say, you're going into it not for a business reason per se. You're going into it just because you're a fan of doing it. And you're just like, I like doing cosplay so much, I want to see somebody else's reaction and just do it. And over the past couple of years, you really kind of developed, your brand for that. Is there any one like notable experience that you've done, like a really great photo shoot that you're like, man, like this is why I'm doing this?
I'd say at the time, probably my favorite shoot that I've done was with Spider-Man.
Okay.
And that's just because we were running around downtown Binghamton.
Now, this is the Binghamton Webhead, too.
This is Binghamton Webhead.
Who, if you're not from the 607, he is a local cosplayer who does an awesome job as Spider-Man, too, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's just more, it's more than that. Like, he is like Peter Parker personified. Like, he's more than just Spider-Man. He takes that role completely seriously every way you go around it.
And yeah, it's crazy because like I've gone by him in passing, and you mean so he'll just be around Binghamton just doing Spider-Man things, and you're like, whoa, like what's going on? But it's literally how he is. And I mean, it's so cool to see, just as a fan of cosplay, but you're also just going like, man, like he really is Spider-Man. And so for you to do that, I mean, describe like the photo shoot. Like you guys just got together, and you're like, yeah, let's just go around and take some pictures just around the city and just really like capture the essence of the character.
Yeah, so we met online, and I asked him if he wanted to do a shoot, and we met downtown one time. It was not this year. It was last like August. I think.
So August 2017.
Yeah, and it was a little bit of a cloudy day, which is great for light when you're shooting subjects. And we just wandered around the city and took pictures. Also happened to be the Martini weekend downtown or whatever they were doing.
Okay, so, they're doing a local event downtown. Yeah, it's Martini Walk, I believe.
Yeah, it was the one. Yeah, so lots of people. And
so how was the
every
reaction?
Every couple of minutes, you're just people yelling, "Hey, it's Spider-Man!" They're running over. They want to take pictures with you.
That's awesome.
Especially because that's not considered like a cosplay event. That's just a normal day. But you figure you're going to people that, obviously everybody knows who Spider-Man is. I mean, even if you're not a comic book fan, you have an idea who it is, and just go and walk around going like, yo, Spider-Man's like walking through downtown. Yeah. Like, how crazy. And just seeing the reaction from them, I mean, that's just got to get you more fired up. Like, yo, we got to get some more photos. We got to do this, and we got to really set this off.
Yeah. No, and to be honest, it's like, all right, you know that people are watching you. You're coming up with these like even bigger ideas. What can we do to kind of push this more? He's climbing on things. He's hanging upside down. People are eating it up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just got to be so cool because, I mean, I remember actually seeing him this year at New York Comic Con, and I'm pretty sure he was in like some live shots around the city.
Oh, okay.
Which I got to find the Twitter picture. I mean, and it looked like him. And I'm like, I think I know that guy. And it was like, yeah, I know him as Spider-Man.
Yep.
But just to see him, from here in Binghamton to there, and I mean, just seeing the photos you've done with it, I mean, you just got to look back at that photo shoot and be like, man, that's something. This is why I do this.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And just going in from there, I mean, you've been taking photos, you've been doing the cosplay. So describe New York Comic Con cosplay this year for us.
There was a lot of good stuff. Now, Friday, my wife and I, we went as the video game characters 2B and 9S from Nier Automata.
Okay.
Now, they wear blindfolds. Kind of tough to see.
A little bit.
We could see while we were walking around, but you couldn't see a lot of details.
Yeah.
So, we probably missed a lot, but from the points in time that we were wandering around without them on, a lot of incredible stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see what sort of craftsmanship people really put into it.
No, it's insane. Like, you look at the level of detail and you just take a step back and like you kind of get a full look at it and you just start rolling through your head of what they did to put into that. Because I mean, the one that sticks out to me from just the amount of work they must have put into it is somebody went as the character Tidus from Final Fantasy X, but they didn't just go as Tidus. They went as Tidus on a chocobo, and the chocobo leg.
See that one.
Yeah, the chocobo legs weren't his legs. It was like mechanical or something like this. And I'm like, holy cow! The amount of work and effort and trial and error they must have put into this is just insane. So I mean, you see stuff like that. Of course, there's the person who went at Bumblebee and among other things. The level of work some people put in is just incredible.
And the guy that does Bumblebee, he did Bumblebee last year. He did a Hulkbuster. He did a Reinhardt from Overwatch.
Right.
In the past, I believe his Instagram account is Extreme Costumes. You guys got to check him out.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's just everything that he does. It's like 9 foot tall.
Yeah,
or bigger.
And it's amazing to see, just because, like, I remember last year we were on the show floor at New York Comic Con, and Pat and I were just like, holy smokes. Like, you just see him walk around, and it's like a full moving Hulkbuster.
If I remember right, we were standing around waiting for Brad Guy to purchase something, and like we just saw, like, it was like something out of the Bible, like the seas are parting, and I'm like, what the heck? And I look, and I'm like, here's 9 foot tall Bumblebee walking at me. I'm like, am I in a movie right now?
Yeah, like, honestly, like, I can't even remember, because, like, every costume that person has is just amazing. Just, like, how intricate it is.
Yeah, I remember the one year, it was, as Mike mentioned, he was Hulkbuster. And I remember you and I were standing outside of the Nerdist truck waiting for Clark, Greg, and Chloe Bennett to come out to do, like, a impromptu Q&A for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we're standing there, and we just hear some people, oh, move in. And we turn around, and it's, like, this group dressed as the Avengers doing a photo. And we look up like, oh, there's, female Thor, there's Cap, there's this, there's that. And we're like, oh my God, that's the Hulkbuster.
Yeah, I mean, just how crazy is that, just to see, like, all the costumes, especially, like I said, you can go online. I know, like, everything from Sneaky Zebra to Beatdown Boogie. There's a bunch of different, fan sites. I almost like to just do cosplay videos just from the cons.
Yep.
And just to see, like, how many different styles there are and just different costumes and just the level of detail that go into it. Like, I know, like, this year for me, there's somebody dressed up as Annihilus from the Marvel Universe comics. And I tell you what, it looked like he had, like, the full set armor, robotic wings, like, everything, man. He looked awesome.
Yeah.
And just to see, I mean, there was just so much different stuff. I mean, you're going to just see, like I said, a lot of anime ones, like, you said you're dressing up as down there. You're going to see, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There was a bunch of cool Krang costumes down there I saw.
Fair number of Venom's, Carnages, although I gotta say I did appreciate the person who dressed up as Venom Wolverine from the Spider-Man Web of Shadows video game. I was like, all right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many cool costumes down there, and I think that just adds to another element of just being a fan. And just as like I said, you're around your fellow fans, and everybody's dressing up. It doesn't have to be the most elaborate thing in the world, but as long as it represents something to you, that's why you dress up as it. And like I say, for the cosplay down at NYCC, it was top notch. I mean, there will be some videos, I'm sure. If they're not out already, they'll be coming out very soon. So definitely get on YouTube and definitely check them out. But Mike, though, in final, what would you recommend to people that want to get into cosplay?
Pick something you love and just go for it.
Go for it and just don't look back.
Yep.
Just leave it all out there.
Do it. It's fun. You're going to have fun. Just do it.
Yeah, because especially, being down, especially local with RoberCon, you were around taking pictures and just seeing the level of excitement. We always talk about the big, comic book conventions, but down here at RoberCon, it was just such a cool vibe too.
Yep. Just
seeing it doesn't matter where you go. As long as everybody's doing cosplay and having fun, it's always a good time. Mike, we say thank you for coming on the show. Definitely, where can we find you if we want to look on social media for your photography?
I'm on both Facebook and I'm also on Instagram at Photo by Mike Blakeslee. And I believe it's the same on Facebook.
So definitely go check him out. He's got a lot of cool pictures. He's going to stick around with us for the end of the show. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Rob Kacharik from the band 607, Autopilot Off, and Walking Distance, and you're listening to ODPH.
Come back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and we're going to kick off with those one-shots. Pad, what you got?
Well, Sunday, of course, was a big day for premieres. You have the Doctor Who simulcast around the world premiere. You had the Walking Dead premiere. But you also had the premiere of Star Wars Resistance on Disney Channel. Now, of course, this is the new animated show from Disney and Lucasfilm, headed by Dave Filoni, of course, Star Wars extraordinaire director, of course, behind Clone Wars and Rebels. First episode, very good, very interesting. It featured Oscar Isaac reprising his role as Poe. Very interested to see where they go with this because it's kind of that it's set before The Force Awakens, but they don't really give it a firm it's taking place at this point. It's interesting to see where it's going to go from here because they kind of allude to the First Order's out there and they know it's coming, and the kind of general feeling at large is okay, yeah, right. You're playing Chicken Little here. You're crying the sky is falling and nothing's happening. So I'm definitely interested to see where they go with it and if they bring in any characters from previous shows.
Very interesting to see because, it's that time of year we're going to be seeing a lot more TV shows coming out, and it's just another great addition to the lineup. Mike, what do you have for us for one-shots?
Well, I'm going to circle back to New York Comic Con, and this time I'm going to talk about an after party that we went on. And
okay.
It's the CEG cosplay cruise.
All right.
They actually have several celebrity hosts that they bring on board. One of them was comic book man Ming Chen.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And professional cosplayer Kristen Huey.
Oh, very cool.
They're two of the big hosts.
Sure.
And basically what it is you board a cruise boat and you're running up and down the Manhattan Harbor for 3 hours, drinking and listening to music and dancing. It's a good time. It's an incredible view.
It was a good weekend for it too.
Oh, the weather was beautiful.
Yeah, and just another way to do some cosplay too.
Yeah, and you're packed on a boat with just people, that entire fandom again. So it was fun. It was a blast. If you're down at New York Comic Con, they do it on the Friday night. You should go. That's
an awesome event to go to. I mean, there's just so much going on with New York Comic Con too. I mean, off-site, no matter where you go, there's always little events here and there throughout the city. It's always just a beautiful time to be a fan down there.
Mm-hmm.
So for my one-shots, on a somber note, Scott Wilson, who played Herschel Green on The Walking Dead, passed away.
Yep.
Definitely rest in peace and condolences to his family, friends, and fans out there. Terrible thing to hear going into the Comic-Con weekend. And, obviously just rest in peace. Just horrible story to hear
Yeah,
about.
never had a chance to meet the man, but from, everyone, of course, whenever somebody dies, fans and people who have met him, start sharing their stories. All the stories I've read, sounds like he was one of the most approachable people you could ever meet.
Yeah, it's just awful news to hear. But not to end the show on a bad note, CW is coming back.
Yes.
This week on
Countdown to the crossover.
Yes, the countdown to the Elseworlds crossover for the DC TVU. Mike, are you a big fan of the CW shows?
Yeah, I like Arrow. I like The Flash. Watch a little bit of Supergirl.
They're all coming back, starting off with The Flash and Black Lightning this week. I'm super excited for Black Lightning. I can't wait to see season 2. I thought that was one of the best surprises of a show for the CW, because I really didn't know what to expect with it, but it's just so family driven, and just the dynamic of it is just something so different than everything else you're seeing on the CW that I think is just a hit. In The Flash, I'm interested to see how this is going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going in with a little trepidation.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, if season 3 I thought was kind of the worst one of the Flash's seasons thus far, season 4 was a step in the right direction. And I'm really interested in seeing where they're going now, because they're dealing with a lot more time travel. They're dealing with a lot more, other elements. And obviously, whatever is going to kick into Elseworlds is going to be interesting. Supergirl and Arrow come back the following week. And then after that's Legends of Tomorrow.
I just can't wait for Legends of Tomorrow to come back.
Yeah, that's got the most promise, especially Constantine on board. It's going to be definitely a lot to check out. Mike, we thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
For Padawan J.
Thank you.
That's all we got for this week, folks. My name is Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition. We'll see you next time.